Alrighty guys, so what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to show you, now this is basically four versions of the blocks that the Gravely Walk Behinds, the Model Ls and Model Cs had. And there may be some earlier stuff which I do not have, but this is probably one of the earliest ones I have, so we're going to start with that, and I'll show you guys the differences between these blocks, and I'll show you a modded block here in just a second. So we'll start out here on the far left. What we have is a cast iron block instead of the rest of these are cast aluminum blocks. And the cast iron block was used from roughly about 1942 till somewhere in 1945-ish. Now the only real way to tell a cast iron block from the aluminum block sitting right next to it, these are both, and I'll dive into this a little more in a second, but the low volume or low pressure oil pump blocks, and there are subtle differences between them. Excuse me. But cast iron block, you can see magnet sticks to it. Aluminum block, I'm trying to show this without doing it, but it only sticks to the bolt below it. So that's an easy way to spot one of these, and that's a good sign of an early L, but at this point in its life it could very well have been changed. And this is a low volume oil pump block that's cast aluminum, and we'll take a look down here and see the oil pump covers are pretty much the same between this and this. Now, what we have here is, I know this block come off of a 1950L, and the reason I took this off is actually the casting is cracked, both these two. And I'm going to say it is very, very important you don't let water in these motors, or otherwise they can freeze and the blocks will crack. Even though they're not liquid cooled or anything, they can get water in them. But anyhow, this is a low pressure block that has been upgraded to high pressure. Now, the difference, and I'm going to attempt to do these without a domino effect going on. There are subtle differences. This is what I was trying to avoid. Okay. Well, actually, you can't see it from there, can you? Might be able to see it from this side, but as you can see on a low volume oil pump, and hopefully you guys can see, but the oil lines actually come out of the casting of the block. Now, on the newer high pressure version, the oil lines actually go into the oil pump cap, and you can see this one, there's a plug right there. And that is the way to spy the difference between what was a high pressure block all its life or a converted to high pressure low volume block. Now I mixed myself all up again. We just had a discussion on the forum that the difference is the volume in the oil pumps, not the pressure per se, even though it does change with it. And basically there's some mods that need to be done when you put the high pressure oil pump on a low pressure block. And let's see, what's the easiest way I can show you guys? Probably between these two. Another giveaway is the low pressure blocks, and depending on their age and era, this one has a drain plug right here. I want to say this come off of a I want to say like a 40s or 50s L, I want to say. There's another one that had no oil pressure I changed. I don't remember what it was, but. And this one has a drain plug in the front casting to drain oil, because I'll go over to the high pressure ones and show you this in a minute. One of the mods is, you can see in the low pressure block there is no holes right here. Nothing. Now in the high pressure ones, they did not want a wet sump. they went to a dry sump, so the oil would drain back out of here. Now these, the oil will stay in here until it gets up to the point where it'll either run out of the crank bushing or it will run out of these holes up here, which, as you can see, is about, I would guess about 2 inches of oil in there roughly. And we're going to kick this one to the side because it's going to be different. But I can show you one other difference with this. Hopefully you guys can see. I'm trying to use something that's the same. The size of the hole in that connecting rod. Take note of that. Wish I had somebody just to move these blocks around while I was making the video. Now let's see if this one was done and done correctly. It was not. See, it does not have the holes drilled there. And it still has the low pressure rod in it. So somebody just put a high pressure oil pump on this and did not take it apart and do the mods. So we'll move over here to a high pressure block. It's been high pressure all of its life. And you can see a difference in the oil pump cover and no plugs back here. And I don't know if you can see, but the hole is actually bigger down in the bushing down there. And I got this turned over. You can see the 2 holes that are drilled here at the bottom to allow the oil to drain back out. Because what will happen is the oil is squirted out of the crank pin, the connecting rod crank pin, and the why can I not think of it? The piston pin bushing, and also the cam. I believe they squirt on the cam gears and everything. That's what they're really designed to do, and all that. But it will actually fill up with oil inside of here. Now the excess oil all comes out. Trying to find. Can't remember if that's the hole there. But the excess oil that actually makes it through here goes through the bushing, through the crank and connecting rod and everything, and comes out. And the excess oil is dumped back into the transmission from there, which oils the high-low planetary on the L's and runs back into the bottom. So you can see how merely just changing oil pump caps and gears and thinking that you are bettering yourself, you may be wrong. It may work fine, and I'm sure there's a lot of L blocks out there that are running this way, but it's something. I believe there is a couple holes that need drilled out, and I don't remember the exact sizes in the bushings to allow more oil to escape on them for the higher volume. And so, you can't just slap a high pressure oil pump on one and fix all your problems. And again, I messed that up. It should be high volume oil pump. Just so used to saying that. But that is the difference between the 4 blocks. Now, as far as using them, is there any difference between them? I will honestly say, because I have run all 4 styles of blocks, literally all 4 styles, if not more, that I haven't realized, there is not much difference between them. The earlier ones had different valve adjusting setups and different valve covers on them. It's just little stuff, not necessarily function wise different. They say there's slight changes in the cams and stuff, but you really don't notice that either. Not with the Torquey L motors. So, alrighty guys, hopefully that'll shed a little light on the different blocks that are available for the Model L's and C's. And this one here, everything from mid-1958, I don't have the serial number off the top of my head, but everything from mid-1958 and up would have come with the high volume oil pump. It would have had the holes drilled in it here, and it would have had the correct holes drilled in the connecting rod for the high volume oil pump. And everything prior to that would have had low volume, but unless you get down there with your magnifying glass or your telescope from a mile away, you really can't tell the difference, guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see everybody later. Alright guys, so I wanted to add a little bit more onto the different blocks, and I wanted to say that the different oil pumps are actually plumbed differently to the block. Now we'll start here with the low pressure setup, which this isn't actually a good example because this is on a high pressure oil pump, but anyhow, the low volume oil pump, because it had such low volume, the oil went directly from the oil pump to a T, which teed off down into the motor. And then basically any extra oil went up and went through the oil filter, which would be up here on the tractor, obviously. So they considered that, what the heck is that called? A bypass oil filter, not a full oil filtered system. And on a high pressure, it goes from the oil pump, then it goes up to the filter, it goes through the filter, and then it tees off on the back. And one side of the T goes up to the pressure relief valve in the advanced casting. The other side of the T goes over and comes down to the port here to pressurize the block and lube it. And so that is definitely a big difference. And you want to make sure, if you have a low pressure oil pump, that you have it plumbed this way. If it is not plumbed this way, it will, especially over time, and I have seen this firsthand, is wreck the high-low planetaries in the L's, because the L's, the high-low planetary, does not run in oil, and it is dependent on the extra oil from that. So that's something to keep in mind. Later on, when they went to the Kohlers, they put 5 quarts in the trans instead of 5 pints. So that was they were designed to run in oil then at that point, but they still fail. So anyhow, that's something I wanted to show off here. If I get to it here, I'll pop the covers off and show you the difference between the two. Okay guys, I got the oil pump covers off both of those, and just take a moment here to look at the covers. This is the old style covers. You can see it's all one piece, and in here is where the oil pump gears ride. Kind of see it's a little dark here. This is the new style. This is just a pump cover, and you can see that the cover is actually fairly worn on this one. Definitely got some, got some hours on it. It's got a noticeable ridge, and this is what I call the oil pump enclosure, and this is what actually sets the end play in the block too. But hopefully you guys will be able to see. But this one here definitely has had some trash go through it at some point in its life. So we'll go back over here and start with the low volume. Right here is the gears that make the oil pump, and basically it pulls oil up through that hole right there, and it puts the oil down through that hole right there. So if I'm not mistaken, it actually spins like this, and it spins off the crank down inside, actually off the cam gears. And this one, I don't know if you'll be able to notice, but the gears are that much bigger in the new style. It's the same finger there. Oh, excuse me. But that's the oil pump gears, and this one's going to be a little bit harder to turn since the rotating assembly is still in this one, but you can see how that works, and it draws oil in through the oil pump there. See right there, that hole, and it exits it out over there. And so that is basically the difference between the two pumps, and you can see the gears are actually double the size in the high volume compared to the low volume. But that's pretty much all you need to know about the blocks. And to set the end play, there's actually shims in here. I was hoping it would just pull right out, but it won't. So basically, you take up the end play, you put more shims in. If you need more end play, you take the shims out. So alright guys, that's everything about Gravely blocks. So thanks for watching. We'll see everybody later. Well, that's everything, all the ones I got anyhow. Later guys.